Hi guys, welcome back to Zay's Corner. This is Al. So, my last video was on the amalgam, and I realized that I really butchered the pronunciation on it. So, thank you guys to the folks who sent me messages in terms of how to actually pronounce the ship name. So, anyway, today's video is going to be really around G3 ship scrapping. I'm going to do a cost-benefit analysis. Most of the video, actually, I think the entire video is going to be based off of this PowerPoint that I kind of prepared. There's a lot of numbers, a lot of data, quite a bit of math. So it's not going to be the most exciting video ever, but it's good data, and hopefully it's going to help you guys decide on how on your ship scrapping strategy as you're kind of going into your 40s and looking at items that you'll need for your G4 ships. So without further ado, all right, so max and scrap. Why should you always max a ship? Well, basically you get many times more return for what you're spending when you're maxing a ship as opposed to an unmaxed ship. So as you're getting to your 40s and you find that you're still getting some of the G3 mats. And those G3 mats you don't really need anymore for buildings or for research, or for some of your ships. As that frees up, kind of reinvest the G3 mats into your G3 ships, just for scrapping purposes. So we're gonna look at basically the 26, 28, 32, and 34 ships. From a scrapping perspective, I'm not really going to look at anything below that. There are, like the Kumari, the Vaklas, and all that stuff. Those ships don't really yield you 4-star mats, so they're not as important for you as you're going to get into your 40s. So we're going to focus more on the faction ships in this video. And three things that you get that are really valuable are going to be the 4-star uncommon ship components. I kind of mentioned that is like the #1 barrier for you when you're building your G4 ships. So that's definitely one of the best things about scrapping. And aside from that, you also get 4-star uncommon mats. You'll always need mats, be it for ship upgrades or research or buildings and all that stuff. And then 4-star rare mats, which you'll need in large quantities as your ships get to a certain level, as well as once your ops gets to a certain level. And it's mostly like ops 47 plus. A lot of those buildings require a very high amount of rare mats, and that's going to be one of the barriers as you're going from 49 to 50 actually, that you'll have to kind of surpass. So always stock up on mats as you can. So really, the question is, what are the best ships to kind of max and scrap? The next slide, we'll look at, the ships that I kind of mentioned, the 26, 28, 32, which is the rare, and then the epics, which are the 34 ships. We're going to look at all 4 of these. And it's going to be based upon an assumption that your scrapyard levels are where they need to be. For a G3 Epic, your scrapyard needs to be at level 50 to be able to scrap that ship. But we're going to throw that in to this analysis just so you have an idea of what those look like as well. So here's kind of the raw data. I kind of broke it down into a few different parts. A quick note is that all of this data is basically on it's the raw values. So it doesn't take into account things like research or let's say your scrapyard level and things like that, the bonuses that you get from that. That's why some of the scrap times may look artificially high. But for a best apple to apple comparison, I think we'll just look at the base values right now. So basically, from left to right, you'll see the scrap time listing right there, and then from there you see the 4-star uncommon ship components that you get from a max scrap, 4-star uncommon mats, 4-star rare mats, 3-star uncommon mats cost to max, 3-star rare mat cost to max, and also the faction credit cost per ship to do a full unlock, I guess, on the blueprints that you'll need to build one of those ships. We're gonna just focus on those, mostly the ship components, and the mats. We're not really gonna look at the dilly or the other resources that you get back, or even just the common mats. While those are important, that's not really the barrier that you're gonna be faced with. So we're gonna focus mostly on this. This is the raw data, and now we're just gonna get ready to slice and dice this data all sorts of ways to kind of get to the answer as to what's the best ship to scrap. Oh, and also, notice I just kind of used the explorers here. I mean, it's basically the same across the board for explorers, interceptors, and battleships. The battleships, I think, get a little bit more in terms of mats and stuff than the other classes, just because you have to invest more to kind of build them up. But I'm partial to explorers myself, so we're just going to look at explorers as a class, and it's basically applicable to both interceptors and battleships anyway. All right, so the first thing that we look at is based on scrap times. So if we look at scrap times, I don't think it's surprising to say, the best ship here is going to be the Enterprise. To scrap, you get 33,484 uncommon ship components. And, the base scrap time is about 44 days. So if you do the math on that, it's about 760.27 ship components a day. That's the best one. But does this mean that the Enterprise is the best ship to max and scrap? Not so much, because we haven't looked at, let's say, the cost component, because an Enterprise costs a lot more faction credits than, let's say, a Mayflower. Whoops, went the other way. So here's exactly the same thing, and we're looking at ship components per 3-star mat spend. So if we kind of dice it and slice it this way, we'll see that the Mayflower here kind of wins out, because you get 8,362 ship components from a scrap there, and then the mats the 3-star mats that it costs to max is right there as well. It's 5,000 gas, almost 5,100 gas, plus about 2,000 ore. And if you divide 8,362 by the sum of 5,088 and 1,968, then you get how many 3-star mats it costs for you to get like ship components. So it's 1.19. Obviously, the higher the ratio here, the better it is. So in this case, you kind of see the Mayflower is going to be the best option for you. Of course, again, I'm going to reiterate that a lot of this stuff is based off of base values. So really, like for me, a Mayflower is not going to cost that much mats, 3-star mats even, to max, based on the research that I have available. And everybody's going to be a little bit different there, but it's still a good template to look at. Here's the same thing. So if you look at the ship components, the uncommon ship components per rare 3-star mat spend, again, you kind of see this trend that the Mayflower kind of floats on top. It's interesting for me to note that that the 32 ships, the G3 rares, are actually a little bit ahead of the G3 uncommon in this scenario. And I think that wasn't the case on the uncommon mat, but it was the case on the rare mat. And if we look at it per faction credit, then once again, you see that the 26 ship actually pulls ahead, because it only costs 10,000 faction credits. You get 8,362 uncommon ship components out of full scrap there. So, again, the ratio, the higher the better. The ratio here for the Mayflower is 0.84, being the highest of the bunch. This is kind of looking at, what you're getting if you're actually paying for something, right? So if you're going to buy a $99 Ultra Explorer Ship Power Pack at Ops 50, this is what you're going to get. And you get more than this stuff, but I'm only going to look at, the ship components and the mats. You get 6,630 uncommon ship components. You get 5,673 gas. You get 3,191 uncommon ore. And then the rares, you get 1,580 rare gas and 889 rare ore. Okay, so compared to this pack, how does the scrap from the per ship level that we looked at before, how does that look like? So here's the scrap versus pack type scenario. And here, if you look at it, you'll see that from a ship component standpoint, because you get more total ship components the higher you go, the enterprise wins out. So, you know, you get 33,484 uncommon ship components, and this is almost $500 in value. So this is, you know, pretty significant. But, you know, even at a 26 ship level, you get 8,362. So even a full scrap on a Mayflower, you're, you know, 1.26 packs, and it's, you know, about $125 in value. So definitely scrapping is going to be something that's important, and something that you should be doing, you know, 24/7. As soon as you finish one scrap, start on another scrap. Here's what it looks like on mats. You know, again, the Enterprise is going to win out because you get more overall mats. In terms of value, it's a little bit less than the ship components. It's about $258 as opposed to nearly $500 on the ship components. You know, mats are important for you. They're always important. But I would argue that the ship components are going to be even more important. So, you know, you get a bit less value here, but it's still pointing out the fact that, you know, it's still a good amount of mats. This is the value versus rare mats. As you see, you know, this kind of decreases even more in terms of the value, the dollar value that you get from each scrap. But still, you know, it's free, so nothing wrong with that. All right, this is also a very important slide because it's making the assumption that you don't have any of the blueprints available. You can't just kind of readily build any of these ships, and you have to kind of buy a pack to get the faction credits to build a ship. If I do that, then how many scraps can I get per pack? And then what are the returns that I get per pack? Or what is the total return per $99 spent? Okay, so if we look at it from this angle, you see that the Mayflower wins out compared to the other ships. With $99, I get 38,000 faction credits per Ultra Pack. So that means I can get, you know, 3.8 scraps of the Mayflower in per $100 spent. And if I equalize that, so for $100 that I spend for 3.8 scraps that I get, what would be the equivalent, you know, UNC ship components, UNC mats, and rare mats? You can see that the Mayflower wins by a hefty margin. You know, for $100, I get 31,775.6 uncommon ship components. I get 11,764.8 uncommon gas. I get 6,334.6 uncommon ore. And the rares, I get 1,846.8 gas and 995.6 ore. So, you know, and you know, this is basically the slide, okay? Because this is going to say for if I ran out of these ship blueprints, what should I do to kind of you know, maximize my returns? I should probably just buy a faction recruit pack, you know, in addition to the faction credits that I need for my scraps. I also get some really nifty, you know, useful ultra recruit tokens, as well as some premium recruit tokens. But, you know, this is kind of saying, well, maybe the 26 ship is the way to go to do the scrapping. And this is kind of the final slide that I have. It's the realized returns. So if we look at this, we say, you know, with a Mayflower, I get, as I mentioned before, over 31,000, almost 32,000 UNC ship components. Now, if I had instead used my money to buy, you know, the Ultra Explorer packs that we looked at before, how many packs does that equal? That equals 4.79 packs, almost 5 packs in component terms. In terms of uncommon mats, it's almost 2 packs of uncommon mats. In terms of rare mats, it's still over 1, so 1.15 of the rare max in terms of number of ship packs. And remember, not only are these Ultra Explorer packs the best way for you to get uncommon ship components, they also give you the most 4-star uncommon mats and most 4-star rare mats that you need for that type of ship class as well. So across the board, you see that, you know, if you had $100, should I buy, you know, should I buy a ship pack or should I buy a faction credit pack to kind of do the scrapping? Definitely, I would say the evidence is pretty conclusive is that you should be buying the faction credit pack and putting that to use and building and maxing the level 26 ships and then scrapping them and then cycle and repeat. So if you look at this, you know, you get almost four scraps per pack It takes, for me, I think it's about 5 or 6 days after all my bonuses to do a scrap on the 26 ship. So given that type of return, it's every month I would probably have to do 5 of these scraps. So it's it's like a bit over $100 per month to do it, but the value that you're getting out of that is significantly more. It's like basically almost 5 times in terms of ship components, almost 5 times that in return. So so even though I'm spending $100, I'm getting almost $500 in realized value. Is what I'm trying to say. So in summary, build and scrap 26 ships for overall value. If you have some of the other ships like the Epics and you're looking for fastest return, and they're already built and maxed, you can consider scrapping the Epics if you're ops 50. But my suggestion is to find the 26 ships, build them, scrap them, and if you're out of the blueprints, then just purchase the faction recruit packs. And then continue the cycle and repeat and keep going. So, you don't ever get rare ship components out of these scraps. They become necessary for you on G4 ships at about the tier 9 level. That's a pretty high level, so it'll take a while for you to need the rare ship components. But until then, maxing and scrapping these 26 ships is going to be a really good strategy for you to save some money. So that's it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. If you're not subscribed already, please click the subscribe button below. And as always, feel free to leave me any comments, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks so much.